pesantren, Islamic boarding school, business units during the COVID-19. Hope you have enjoyed it. In today's international webinar, we are so pleased and honored to have with us three prominent speakers in the field. First is Dr. Irfan Shauki Beg, Director of Center of Strategic Studies of the National Board of Zakat of Indonesia. Second, Dr. Imam Teguh Sabtono, Vice Chairman of the Indonesia Art Body of or BWI. The last but not the least is Professor Muhammad Iskandar Shah Rashid, the Islamic finance and economic expert from the International Center for Education in Islamic Finance, Malaysia. Inshallah, the prominent speakers will share and discuss with us the roles of Islamic funds in alleviating the impact of COVID-19 in Indonesia in the Muslim countries. Thank you also to the moderator, our colleague, Mr. Irfan Sukarna, the Deputy Director from Bank Indonesia. Brothers and sisters, Rahimahumullah, in this holy month of Ramadan, we hope to have Allah's blessings, especially in the condition due to COVID-19 outbreak. As we may aware, has already declared up to the end of April 2020, the virus has infected almost 3 million people worldwide in more than 200 countries and has become the global humanitarian challenge to mankind. The impact of the economy also very big, and IMF has declared that global economic downturn as the worst one ever. Unexceptionally, the Islamic economic and finance are amongst sectors impacted by slowing down of the economy. Muslim people and society are also amongst the most suffer people in many countries. We realize that Islamic social funds is one of the Islamic instruments dedicated to help the needy, both Muslim and non-Muslim. Zakah, Wakaf, infak, hadiah, hibah are some of tabarruk, social contract in Islam to release people from falling down into becoming poor. Alhamdulillah, Islamic social funds receive more attention from the public to ease the needs from the negative impact of COVID-19. In Indonesia, there are two leading national agencies in this area, which are Indonesia National Zakat Agency, Basnas, and also BWI, Badan Wakaf Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, we arrange this international webinar series as pivotal events for us to discuss the role of Islamic social finance and various policies that have been taken to combat the economic impact of this pandemic. Indeed, Islamic social finance has potential to take important roles in the era of the pandemic, and instruments like zakah, infak, sodaqah, and waqf are very sizable because Indonesia is a country with the highest giving index in the world based on Charities Aid Foundation World Giving Index 2018. But unfortunately, such Islamic social funds are not fully organized and managed to be distributed to all people to give significant economic impact to the needy. So far, Indonesian Zakat and Wakf institution have done great and fantastic jobs in assisting the societies, improving the quality of life of the poor, including the ones impacted by the outbreak. Distinguished speakers and participants, as we are all aware, the Islamic economic and finance is divided into two major clusters, namely commercial and social clusters. The commercial cluster of Islamic Economic and Finance includes 7 sectors, which are food, finance, clothing, tourism, media, recreation, pharmaceuticals, and cosmetics. While the social sectors include zakah, wakaf, and sodako. The Global Islamic Economic Report last year stated that Islamic social finance is the potential sectors that will grow rapidly this year. This can be seen from example in several countries. However, much effort is needed to accelerate this area. First, in Malaysia-based Islamic fintech startup, Hello Gold, partnering with Africa and China-focused microlender, has launched a blockchain work platform. The second, the Indian government digitized and geotags all work properties across the country and will provide full funding to develop educational institutions and hospitals on them. In the US, the Blossom Finance has introduced blockchain-based zakat payments. Another evidence that saw the Islamic social finance bright prospect as a remedy to the economic downturn is the work assets, which were recorded as much as $4,010 billion in 2016, and the total zakat obligatory that has reached 76 billion in 2018 globally. Moreover, in Indonesia, almost all zakat institutions proactively collect infaq from societies and create programs to alleviate the economic impact of COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, based on the latest economic impact due to COVID, to maintain the domestic economy in particular economic indicators such as rupiah exchange rate and economic growth in the current situation, Bank Indonesia, in conjunction with the government and also other related agencies, has implemented mixed policies to mitigate the economic impact of the outbreak, such as in the payment system, we provide hygienic currency, banknotes and coin fit for circulation, reducing the cost of the national clearing system, maintaining QR merchant deposit rate of 0% for micro merchants, and also support the government program in social, including the Family Hope program and non-cash food assistance program. Second, intensifying travel intervention to stabilize rupiah exchange rate by purchasing government securities in the secondary market. Third, lowering the rupiah reserve requirement, as well as in the financing of medium, small enterprise and other priority agency. Bank Indonesia also actively support and contributes in programs which integrate commercial and social finance, such as Task Work Link Sukuk or CWLS, the first of its kind in the world, and Alhamdulillah has been launched in March last month in cooperation between Badan Wakaf in Indonesia, Ministry of Finance, and stakeholders. Alhamdulillah, and congratulate for us, all of us. As immediate response to assess the economic condition, Bank Indonesia conduct intensive communication and coordination. This is very, very important, and also for information for all of us, internally, Bank Indonesia intensify what we call Bank Indonesia religious program and corporate social responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, our distinguished speakers are going to elaborate the roles of Islamic social finance in alleviating the impact of COVID, including the religious views on this. Besides speakers, we have audience from academics, Islamic economic and finance practitioners, and regulators. Hence, we hope to have fruitful discussion and produce essential message to keep sustaining the Islamic economic and business sectors and the most important one, assisting the less fortunate people because of the outbreak. We shall endure in the calamity that Allah has mentioned patient in the Quran in 90 places. Let us recite of the verses. And the patient, indeed, Allah is with the patient. Surah Al-Anfal, verses 46. Thank you very much. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Mr. Suhaidi. Now let us proceed to the dua session. Ustadz Cecep, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, let us pray first before we start our seminar, requesting from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala so that this meeting will run smooth and become blessing and barakah for us. Amin. Al-Fatihah. A'udzubillahi minasyaitonir rajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin arrahmanir rahim maliki yaumiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta 'alaihim ghairil maghdubi 'alaihim waladdallin. Amin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wal 'aqibatu lil muttaqin. Wala 'udwana illa 'alal zalimin. Allahumma shalli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Allahumma ighfir lana dhunubana wa liwalidayna warhamhuma kama rabbayana shighara wa li jamil muslimin wal muslimat wal mu'minin wal mu'minat al ahya'i wal amwat wahdina fitna ila siratal mustaqim wa najjina minal qaumiz zalimin wa alhiqna bis salihin. Ya Allah, make this meeting as the one you bless, and make its departure aftermath as the one that is protected from any sin. Please do not put among us the disobedient and unwanted people. Ya Allah, make our religion easy for us by virtue of which our affairs are protected. Set right for us our world where our life exists. Make good for us our hereafter, which is our resort to which we have to return, and make our life prone to perform all type of good, and make death of comfort for us from every evil. Ya Allah, we ask you for beneficial our knowledge and goodly provision and acceptable deed. Allahumma dfa'anna al-bala wal-ghala wal-waba wal-corona wal-riba wal-fahsha wal-munkar wal-zalazila wal-mihan wal-fitan ma zahara minha wa ma batan an baladina Indonesia khasah wa sa'iri buldanil muslimin ya rabbal alamin. Oh my God, Ya Allah, leave from us any crisis, the pandemic, the corona, the riba, the evil, the earthquake, suffering and misfortune, those that are apparent and hidden, especially from our country Indonesia and for all the Muslim countries. Rabbana la tuzigh qulubana ba'da idh hadaytana wa hab lana min ladunka rahmah innaka antal wahhab. Allahumma ij'al jam'ana hadha jam'an marhuma tafarruqan ba'dihi tafarruqan ma'ruf wa la tusallit 'alaina hiya wa la tusallit 'alaina man la yakhafuka wa la yarham. Rabbana taqabbal minna salatana wa siyamana wa ruku'ana wa ramadana wa siyaman wansur 'alaina min khazaini rahmatika ya arhamar. Rabbana atina fid dunya hasanah wa fil akhirati hasanah wa qina adzabannar. Ana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wassalamun salim. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. I wish you Ramadan Kareem Wish you Ramadan Mubarak. Selamat Ramadan. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Amin ya rabbal alamin. Thank you, Ustaz Cecep. Ladies and gentlemen, now we will begin the main agenda, which will be guided by Mr. Irfan Sukarna, Deputy Director of Islamic Economic and Finance Department, Bank Indonesia, as the moderator. Mr. Irfan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Sandi. Thank you, Executive Director, Mr. Suhaidi, and also Pak Ustadz Cecep for the dua. Let us begin with the core event, which is the seminar. Before we start, I'd like to introduce our three prominent speakers, which is the first will be from National Zakat Agency, Dr. Irfan Sauki Bey. He has a master degree from International Islamic University in Islamabad, Pakistan, and he's got a PhD from International Islamic University in Malaysia. And he has many writing in the article in the journal, and he's got now a position as a director of zakat mobilization and utilization in National Zakat Agency. The second prominent speaker will be Dr. Imam Teguh Sabtono. He's the vice chairman of National Wakaf Agency. He's got education, graduation from bachelor degree until PhD from Bogor Agricultural University. And beside his position in National Wakaf Agency, he's got a position in some company as a commissioner. And last but not least, the third prominent speaker is from Malaysia, from INCEIF, is Professor Muhammad Iskandar. He's got a PhD from the University of Nottingham, United Kingdom, and he's specialized in asset pricing, portfolio, and international finance. So please welcome all the three prominent speakers. And the first chance will be to Dr. Irfan Sauki Bey from National Zakat Agency. The times and events is yours. Please, Dr. Irfan Sauki. Dr. Irfan Sauki. There's a technical problem, please. The committee, Mr. Reza, Dr. Irfan Sauki Bey, there's a technical problem.
Okay, now it's already unmute because I just I
Please,
tried to
the
unmute,
time
but
is yours, Dr. Irfan Sauki.
okay, thank you very much. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil karim wa ba'd. Syrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Rabbana zidna ilman nafi'an warzuqna fahman wasi'an. The Honorable Executive Director of Department of Islamic Economics and Finance, Bank Indonesia, the distinguished panelists, Dr. Imam, and also Prof. Iskandar. Prof. Iskandar was my neighbor during my stay in Kuala Lumpur. And also all the audience, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters. First of all, I would like to express my gratefulness to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala because of His mercy we can gather here. And also I would like to convey the message from Professor Bambang Sudibyo, who is unfortunately unable to attend this international webinar series due to his pressing commitment in other activities. And allow me to share some of my presentation, and kindly the host please make it able for me because it is written here. Okay. Is it possible for me from my side to share the slide? Is it okay? Oh, it's already okay, done by the host. Okay, I would like to discuss about the zakat distribution during the COVID-19 pandemic and the role of Basnas Indonesia in response to that situation. Next. Yes. Okay. As we all know that currently, yeah, we have the confirmed cases around more than 10,000. Yeah, more than 10,000 positive case for the COVID-19. And out of that number, the fatalities reach around 792. So it means that the mortality rate in Indonesia as of yesterday is equal to 7.83%, which is still higher compared to the world mortality average. And if we look at the condition that we still do not have any knowledge that when this pandemic will be over. And according to our analysis, our analysis that we are still actually on the slope of the graphic, and we still not reach the peak of the graphic itself, which means that we do not know when we will reach the peak of the graphic of this COVID-19 pandemic. Some studies have attempted to estimate the peak of the graph, yeah, about this pandemic. Some studies say that it will be on next month, on May, some other, or this month, May, and some other studies, they make some estimation in which they conclude that the peak will be reached on June. And some studies say that it will be on July. So we do not know. But the point is the number is still increasing, yeah, exponentially. And therefore, to our humble analysis, so we are still on the slope of the graphic. And then also at the same time, we are facing the threat of multiple disasters and multiple crises. Because as we know, at the same time, in addition to pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic, we are also facing the economic recession and the financial turbulence, and also the threat from the possibility of the natural disasters to take place in Indonesia. So this create, multiple disasters and multiple crisis condition that we must deal with. And therefore, as response to that one, in the early days of the COVID-19 to break out in Indonesia, Basnas has established crisis center with FOS. FOS is the Zakat Forum. It is an association of the private Zakat institution. And also we have established the command center of COVID-19 pandemic emergency response. Yeah, so in order to deal with this pandemic situation. Next. Yeah, so what we are doing as response to this situation, we have made 3 policies regarding this one. The first one is the determination of the clusters of recipient. Yeah, because COVID-19 pandemic has created a new situation and has impacted a lot of segments of the society. So we are expecting that the number of poverty will increase. Yeah, this also in line with the statement of our Minister of Finance on her press statement last month, mid of April, in which she stated that responsibility, the number of poverty may increase up to more than 2 million poor people due to this COVID-19 pandemic. So therefore, in order to respond to this situation, the first thing that we do is we identify the clusters of recipients. And regarding this one, we have divided into 6 clusters of the targeted recipients. The second one, what we are doing is we develop the Special Emergency Distribution Program, which comprises Health Emergency Program and Social and Economic Emergency Program. And the third one, what we are doing is we try to secure the existing program, because securing existing program is very important. Yeah, what do we mean by the existing program is those the mustahik that have been under our management. So we have to make sure that the impact of this pandemic, COVID-19 pandemic to them is not that severe, and we can at least reduce the impact to them, to this mustahik. So we try to secure our existing program. Next. Next, please. Yeah. So what should be the intervention stage? Here, we divide the intervention stage into 3 phases. The first one is the emergency response. The second one is on the restore. And the third one is on restart. So in the emergency response, we initiated the health emergency program as an attempt to participate in saving lives by supporting the PEE, protective equipment, for the medical doctors, yeah, and also paramedics, so that they can perform their duties, yeah, to provide the health services to those who are affected by this COVID-19. And also because of the situation in which this pandemic has forced people to work from home, to stay at home, of course, there will be some people who are affected by this condition. So we are also conducting the early restore, especially in the social and economic aspect. That's why we also initiate the social and economic emergency program. And of course, if we have reached the peak of this pandemic, and then the graph starts to slow down, yeah, and then we can start with the third phase, which is the restart stage. Next. Can you please move forward? Yeah, next. So what are these 6 clusters of the recipient that have been identified? The first one is the educator and da'wah cluster. Yeah, for example, the targeted recipients under this cluster, like part-time teacher, lecturer, preacher, yeah, the da'i, Quranic teacher, mosque officer, etc. Yeah, because they are also among the affected ones. The second cluster is micro and small entrepreneur cluster, such as small trader, small beauty shop owner, small haberdasher, yeah, and small food vendors, etc. The third one is the informal labor cluster, such as parking attendants, canteen keeper, etc. Beca driver. Yeah, beca is maybe for Malaysian. You also know beca, yeah, etc. And also the fourth one is formal labor cluster, such as shopkeeper, office boy, angkot driver, online transportation driver, etc. And then the fifth cluster is layoff victim and unemployed cluster, such as laid off workers and newly unemployed person. And the third one is others cluster. This will be based on the assessment of Basnas. This is to accommodate those who are not classified under the previous 5 clusters. Next. So what are the initiatives or programs under this special emergency response program? As I mentioned earlier, that we divide into two major programs, which are health emergency programs and also social and economic emergency programs. For the health emergency programs, we divide this into 2 programs, which are promotive health and curative one. Promotive health, for example, the campaign on the healthy lifestyle, and also we conduct the disinfectant spraying at public facilities like terminal, bus station, and also train station, etc. And also we introduce the provision of healthy sing or Wastafel Sehat, healthy sings, which are placed in various strategic locations. In Jabodetabek or Greater Jakarta itself, we have put more than 100 healthy sings there, and around Indonesia almost 400, yeah, in various public facilities. And also the curative one, we also introduced the medical equipment support program, yeah, including the multivitamin for the medics, yeah, and also distribution of PPE or personal protective equipment, or in Indonesia it is known as APD. Yeah, and also in our Basnas Hospital or RSB or Basnas Healthy House, we also have created the temporary isolation room in case some poor people are not able to directly enter the hospital, the reference hospital for the COVID-19 patients. So we create this one in all our RSB, yeah, the temporary isolation room. And then we also introduced the social economic emergency programs that comprise 4 major programs. The first one is family logistic package. Yeah, we have this food package, yeah, with the equivalent rate of 250,000 rupiah per package. And also cash for work, which target the those who are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, those who are really depending upon the daily income, like the online driver, yeah, ojek online, for example. Yeah, so we introduced this program. We involve them in our program. For example, the angkot driver is used to distribute our food or family logistic package. We are using their service, and then because of that, we pay them some cash that they can earn some money. Yeah, and then also we introduced the distribution of zakatul fitr. Yeah, this year we target for the central Basnas is around 80,000 recipients, but all around Indonesia, each Basnas at least they need to accommodate 2,000. So it will be more than 1 million people that will be receiving the distribution of this zakatul fitr. And then the fourth one, which is newly introduced, is the BTM or mustahik cash assistance or bantuan tunai mustahik. Okay, next. So that's for the first part. The second part that we are doing is on the securing existing program. So we also secure the existing program of Basnas. So regarding this program, what we do, initially we establish the protocol to secure the existing program. Yeah, so we have our own protocol, how to secure, for example, the ZMART program, how to secure, for example, the Mustahik Entrepreneurship Program. Yeah, so these programs need to be secured through a protocol in which we try to make sure, to ensure that the existing Mustahik, yeah, the impact to this existing Mustahik can be reduced or can be minimized. And the second one, what we are doing is we try to make adaptation and adjustment of existing programs. Yeah, regarding this adjustment, we target the business process adjustment and also the output adjustment. Business process adjustment is very important in order to adapt with this pandemic era. Yeah, for example, we have to make sure the consumers that the goods and services produced by the mustahik is safe, yeah, from COVID-19. Yeah, therefore, to all our mustahik, yeah, we teach them how to convince people that their product is safe from this COVID-19. Yeah, so they have to follow our protocol in the adjustment of the business process. Yeah, like for example, the food vendor, they have to wear masks and also the glove, yeah, and also they have to make sure that there's sink there, a healthy sink, which guarantees people who come to their store that they can wash their hands properly, etc. So cleanliness is very important, and it has to be shown to the people, especially to the consumers, that their product is safe, yeah, from the COVID-19. So the next one is on the output adjustment. Yeah, so we change the output focus. For example, the mustahik, yeah, the tailor, they switch their business, their output from ordinary clothes to cloth mask, because cloth mask is really encouraged, to be used, when, especially for the healthy people, when they when they go outside of their home. So this is what we are doing, and Alhamdulillah, some of this output adjustment are really successful, and even some of our mustahik, they can double the income. They can double the income due to this pandemic. Okay, next. So this is just an example, of PPE, personal protective equipment, the distribution of PPE to the reference hospital. Next, this is just some pictures. Okay, this is the temporary isolation or observation. Next, this is another example of how we distribute the personal protective equipment to the funeral officers, because two areas which are in Jakarta, Rangun and Alor, I forget the name. The funeral officers there are not equipped with proper PPE or personal protective equipment or APD. So that's why we distribute this to them. Also we distribute the mask and hand sanitizer. Okay, next. This is just another example. Okay, next. I just want to show the picture. This is example of the cash for work program. Next. Okay, this is cash for work program. Next, you can see the angkot there. This is the family logistic package. Next. This is the example of how we secure the existing program. We have the zakat-based community development. So we create the we prepare the people in the village in our program to ready in responding to the pandemic, to this COVID-19 pandemic. Next, this is the support of mustahik business. I'll give you example here. The one that I stated earlier, that the monthly turnover before COVID-19 is 3 million, but after COVID-19 is 6 million. So when they are able to switch their business output, from ordinary clothes to cloth masks, so what happened? They can double their income. And also to stimulate their product, Basnas itself, we have ordered. For example, from the Bojong Rangkas group, and Jabon Mekar group, we ordered around 5,000 pieces of cloth masks, which are distributed to the poor and the needy. So that by our program, they can earn a lot of money from there. Next. Another example is how we increase the production capacity, especially on the herbal and other vitamins and other health products. So the demand for this honey is increasing drastically. For example, our mustahik, they produce Madu Sufrun. It's the brand of the honey that they produce. And just recently, the Basnas of Jakarta has ordered 2,000 honey bottles, and the price of this bottle per bottle is 40,000. So they can receive almost around 80 million, for this product selling. So this means that this is what we are doing in order to secure our existing program, by changing the focus and the orientation, and also by changing the business process and also the output from the programs. By that, I end my presentation. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Irfan Sauki Baik. The presentation is very clear and enlightening us that the National Zakat Agency of Indonesia has made a lot of work and a lot of being done to make the society has make a good, even the income of the mustahik will increase double. So that's from the zakat view. Now we can move on to the wakaf view. Please, Dr. Imam Teguh from National Wakaf Agency, the time is yours.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalamu ala asrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wal alihi wa sahbihi ajmain. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu ma ba'du. It is an honor for me to be invited in this prestigious event. Now allow me to elaborate and explain about the Wakaf initiative to alleviate the impact of COVID-19. Ladies and gentlemen, goals of Islamic economics is to achieve falah that are realized through optimizing maslahah, which is hifzud din, hifzun nafs, hifzun akal, and etc. The state and its instruments are presented to help realize the falah. COVID-19 disaster has been, next presentation please. Okay. COVID-19 disaster has been transformed from a health crisis into a multi-crisis, such as poverty, hunger, economic crisis, humanity, even politics and security that are threatening the ummah maslahah. In this condition, the state is required to be stepped in, to be in place, maintaining maslahah through several policies, including economic policy. In a country with Islamic law as its constitution, Islamic social instruments like zakat, infak, sadaqah, and wakaf automatically become part of the state authority to utilize them. But if it is not the case, active participation from the community is needed, along with the government to mobilize and utilize Islamic social funds for the right target. Next, please. There is no complete teaching other than Islam where each financial instrument has its own mandate. The mandate of wakaf is different compared to zakat or infak in general. Judging from the meaning of the word wakaf itself means to hold. In this context, the wakaf asset should be preserved, not consumed and spent. And what is given to beneficiaries is the benefit generated from the management of the wakaf assets. Meanwhile, for the zakat or infak, they can be given directly to the beneficiaries so that it can be used immediately. Limited for the zakah, in addition to the calculation of nisab, the beneficiaries are limited to 8 asnaf. Judging from their natures, zakat and infak are more appropriate in emergency condition, such as this pandemic, because both of them are more flexible and hold quick response. Meanwhile, for wakaf, its role is more emphasized in building the capacity and resiliency of the community or nation in the face of crisis, because they act more as a social capital expenditure that has long-term and accumulated quality. In practical business institutions, zakat and infak are analogous to operating expenses, while wakaf is capital expenditures. It is briefly mentioned that the zakat and infak instruments are aimed to cover emergency needs, while wakaf is more intended towards the development of hajiyat or even tasiniyat civilization. Next. For example, in the glory days of Islamic civilization, productive wakaf asset in the form of agricultural land generate profits that were used to fund educational institutions and research, which gave birth to many important discoveries that later become the cornerstone of human civilization. In addition to the educational purposes, productive wakaf assets also fund a number of hospitals or bimaristan, so that they were able to provide free healthcare services to everyone with no matter who they are. According to historical research, even under war condition, wakaf assets are also used to fund the army forces. It is stated that Salahuddin al-Ayyubi forces, who liberated Palestinian land, were also financed by the wakaf. But in its development, especially in Indonesia, the practice of wakaf tend to be more narrow and limited, where most of the wakaf assets are only manifested in the form of land, and the allocation is only for tombs, mosques, and madrasah. Ummah literacy about productive asset is still very inadequate. This phenomena is more or less influenced by traditional Nazir management patterns happening in Indonesia. Next, please. As depiction, the Nazir system in Indonesia is different from a number of Muslim countries. If we look at some countries, Nazir is carried out centrally and become part of the state apparatus. Some are centralized at the national level, some are the provincial level, some are in the form of council run by the Nazir associations. In Indonesia, the pattern is very liberal because there are many individual Nazir compared to Nazir institution, and the nature of Nazir is hereditary. Next, please. Okay. Several prominent Nazir that have modern management are known to have a number of specific programs related to the COVID-19 pandemic, where on the Awqaf asset point of view, it is categorized as direct program or indirect program. There are 3 sample programs. In first is the construction of container hospital, which is hospital built from cargo containers to increase the capacity of hospital isolation rooms. This program is run by Dompet Duafa, which does have a competency in hospital management. Besides that, there are also 65 Muhammadiyah hospitals are utilized as a care center for COVID-19 throughout Indonesia. The second program is the Wakaf for ventilator. The ventilators are produced by Indonesian scientists and technicians from Bandung Institute of Technology. This affordable ventilator device has received quality certification according to national standard. The procurement program was initiated by the Salman Wakaf Board, a Nazir which was established and sponsored by the ITB or Bandung Institute of Technology academic community. Next. Next, please. Last but not least is another procurement program of rice for poor families who are at risk of hunger because they cannot work as a result of business closure and termination of employment. The rice is produced from Wakaf Rice Mill managed by Global Wakaf Corpora or ACT, Aksi Cepat Tanggap. In the normal situation, the rice mill and warehouse operate in business orientation basis. They are supplied the convenience shop, which are also Wakaf asset. But in the current pandemic condition, they are functioning to back up food operation for the poor people, and these programs collaborate with Grab bikes as its dispatcher. Next. Meanwhile, on the government side, Badan Wakaf Indonesia or Indonesian Wakaf Board, alongside various institutions such as the Ministry of Religion, Ministry of Finance, and Bank Indonesia as well, are trying to bring national Wakaf forward through product innovation and modern Wakaf instrument. One of them is Cash Wakaf Link Sukuk. This is a temporary Wakaf in the form of money or cash that will be invested into state Sukuk that will be issued specifically. With this innovation, a number of advantages are obtained, including first is the initial time needed to deliver profits since the initial investment is relatively short compared to the other mode of investment. Second, the specific duration of investment is precisely with the competitive return. The third is minimum level of risk because the instrument being managed has sovereign risk. And fourth, generate double impact because Wakaf asset or principal are used to fund national development needs and margin coupon are given to Maquf Alai. It could be also could be buying the Sukuk pandemic if the government tend to issue the Sukuk pandemic. Next. And some time ago, before the COVID-19 outbreak, the Badan Wakaf Indonesia succeeded recording the first batch of the Sukuk worth 50 billion rupiah, in which the Maquf Alai is Wakaf Eye Hospital, Ahmad Wardi and Serang. In the future, Badan Wakaf Indonesia with the Minister of Finance and Bank Indonesia are designing the same Sukuk that is equipped with more market-friendly features for the retail investors, where the Maquf Alai is humanitarian programs related to COVID-19. From the explanation above, it can be concluded that Wakaf plays a role in building the capacity and resilience from economic shock that occurs. Through a number of product innovation and the application of contemporary fikih, productive Wakaf is able to play a bigger role and progress faster than what is originally imagined. On the other hand, the existence of this COVID-19 pandemic is expected to bring new awareness into the world for the growth of the modern Wakaf movement on the large scale among the ummah. Next. Next, please. Okay. The limitation, back. Okay. In the limitation of the proposition related to Wakaf, both in the Quran and Hadith that cause the practice of Wakaf to be an area of ijtihad and vary in each school should not be used as inhibiting reasons. Instead, the limitation of this argument should be seen as a mercy from Allah and become a force for the implementation of Wakaf field. That is, Wakaf should be able to easily accommodated, can be adapted to the state of economic development of the people, ranging from technology, disruptive economy, Internet of Things, and etc. The dynamic economic climate should be a means of proving that Wakaf can be present as a solution to address the intended challenge and not to make them marginalized. And Wakaf stakeholders should be prioritize the purpose of prosperity and put aside differences between school of thought or mazhab. Next, please. To create a sound ecosystem for Wakaf, policymakers must adopt two approaches, namely push strategy and second pull strategy. Push strategy means which is as much as possible encourage all stakeholders of Wakaf, Nazir, Islamic financial institution, government, Islamic scholars, ulama, and etc. concerned about the innovation of Wakaf products in accordance with the development of the Islamic financial industry, such as the launch of cash Wakaf link sukuk, sukuk link Wakaf, premi insurance Wakaf, Wakaf shares, Wakaf banks, etc. While the pooling strategy is by attracting Islamic financial institutions to care of for Wakaf. I'm sure that the role of Wakaf in the future will be increasingly demanded, especially in the recovery period after the pandemic COVID-19, both in the form of fixed asset and cash Wakaf funds to finance sector that have been hit like SMEs. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Imam Teguh. You have already explained about the existing Wakaf program and also the potential in the future, how the Wakaf could financing both commercial and public utilities. That's a good example. We hope the Wakaf will come to the glory like the old days. Now, last but not least, we have come to the third prominent speaker from Malaysia. Please, Professor Muhammad Iskandar, the time is yours.
Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you so much for the invitations. It's a great honor to be part of this webinar series. It features a lot of prominent speakers. So I have to thank Bank Indonesia and also other collaborative partners as well. And also this is my first time giving a talk or probably a presentation using Zoom. We had a lot of meetings lately, but this is a first attempt, and hopefully, inshallah, just like the previous two speakers, this one will go well as well. So again, it's a privilege to be part of this. Malaysia, Indonesia have a very long relationship. I think we are in this thing together. Alhamdulillah, things are slightly improving in Malaysia. The number of cases have gone down, and today our government have given us the good news, that the lockdown will be lifted partially. So a lot of business activities can resume starting from 4th of May. So we, just like you all, we need a lot of dua and prayers so that we can overcome this unprecedented pandemic and also crisis. Unlike the two speakers that we had before, who spoke a lot about micro level or the roles of zakat, the first one, and also the role of wakaf, I try to keep my presentation much more at the macro level and try to really look at the impact of this pandemic on Malaysia, not just Malaysian economy, but at the on the Muslim countries. and see how we can actually overcome this, and not just overcome this, but more importantly, try to make our economy more resilient and stronger. And obviously for us to do that, the role of social finance is becoming even more important. And the crisis is an epitome for that, you know, an example of how important it is, the third sector or the social sector, in terms of alleviating some of the pain and some of the issues that we are going through at this point of time. I really enjoyed the first two presentations. My good friend Dr. Irfan as well, it's a great honor to be part of this presentation together with him. So what I'm going to talk about today is that probably we want to look at this crisis in general and how the Muslim countries are really prepared for it, and the impact not just on banking, capital market, but more importantly, what we can do in terms of overcoming this crisis, and make Islamic economics or Muslim economics a lot better and a lot more resilient in the future. Okay, for those who are probably looking at me for the first time, I'm from INCEIF, Malaysia. I've been with INCEIF for almost 8 years right now, and I've been holding this position for Associate Dean for the last 7 years. And Alhamdulillah, and we are a university specialized in Islamic finance. So just like any other institutions, we are also trying to see how Islamic finance can actually play a better role in terms of not just overcoming this crisis, but more importantly, attract more and more people to embrace the pillars of Islamic finance, and bring so-called the concept of shared prosperity at a much higher level. So next, can we move on to the next slide? Okay, so let me just start my presentation with something which is quite common, something that you see almost every day in the news. And obviously no one is basically scot-free from the crisis. No one is unscattered. I think everyone eventually are going through some pains. First, it start from the health pain, and then eventually it's going to translate into economic crisis, and more importantly, once we see this crisis, and then the next question is that the most important question is that what is the continuity of our economy? So the numbers are not really encouraging, even though the stock market seems to giving us so kind of different kind of message. It's still going up, despite the fact that, you know, there are a lot more unemployment numbers are coming in, so on and so forth. So there seems to be some kind of disconnection between the financial market and also the real data. But that is more of a reflection of our short-term emotion. But in the long term, we make no mistakes. I think a lot of countries, including Malaysia, Indonesia, will face some kind of challenges. So the question that we all have to ask ourselves today is that, you know, what we can do to overcome these challenges. So it's no longer the questions of why the crisis is happening, but the question is that what we can do and to make our economy better and overcome this crisis. So let me just basically bring 3 different scenarios so that for us to think of and try to understand what exactly the situation that we are in at this point of time. So obviously unemployment going to go up, obviously demand going to shrink, obviously private investment going to go down as well because of uncertainty. So the only thing that remain at this point of time is that the role of the government. I think that is become even more important. So obviously some countries who have a lot more fiscal buffer, like Indonesia, for example, who have relatively lower debt compared to GDP relative to Malaysia, probably had a lot more fiscal buffer as compared to us, can do much more in terms of pushing a lot of new money into the market, into the system through, you know, expansionary fiscal policy or probably aggressive bond purchasing, so on and so forth. But the same luxury and the same flexibility are not really enjoyed by many parties or many governments. So we have one category of governments who have this fiscal buffer. Malaysia probably can be included as well. But we have many other Muslim countries who are actually struggling because they don't have a proper macro policies. So the question is that how we can support them, or how this country can actually play a greater role in terms of alleviating the impact of this crisis. So this is where For example, the role of social finance is actually coming. The role of third sector actually coming. When the market is failing because of the sudden collapse of the economy, because of the lockdown, and the state is also not able to do so much in terms of alleviating or the issues and the problem at the ground level. So then the third sector become even more important. So I really enjoy listening to what Indonesia is doing in terms of their zakat and also wakaf. It seems that things are a lot more structured and as compared to many other countries. So the question right now is that how we can actually resemble the success of Indonesia in terms of putting a so-called a holistic ecosystem and a framework for zakat distribution and collection, and also wakaf collection and also distribution, in terms of supporting the main two players in the market, which is the state and also the market. Alright, and even though we might say that some countries are doing better right now, for example, Middle East countries, but bear in mind, they are doing well right now because they have the capacity to buy the technology and also a good healthcare system. But eventually, because of the low oil price, eventually they will have the same problem as well. So whatever surplus that they have now, it might translate into deficit in the future. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that all Muslim countries generally will have some kind of problems or some kind of issues of dealing with this crisis. Because this is almost unprecedented. We have financial crisis before, we have banking crisis before, we have quite a number of commodity crisis before, but this is probably the first time at least in my lifetime, or at least in our lifetime, that we are actually looking at a crisis due to a pandemic. So this is something that we really got to think of. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that we just cannot be looking at typical macro solutions in terms of overcoming this crisis. So I think this is where Indonesia is standing out because of a very structured ecosystem of the third sector. Can we move on? Next one. So this is the point that I'm trying to make here, is that perhaps if you look at almost all economic sectors, a lot of people think that, oh, I'm from education and I'm from research, I might be safe from this crisis as well. But not necessarily, because eventually, student numbers are also declining. And if the university cannot run without students, because the students are also scared coming to the university if you're not able to figure out how to overcome this pandemic crisis as well. So the point that I'm trying to make is that even though some industries are less affected, people like us still have a job, but eventually if you're not able to overcome this the sooner, then eventually all of us will have some kind of impact from this crisis as well. So to be specific to the Muslim world, and perhaps this is much more specific to the Middle East countries and also like Malaysia as well, because we are all producing countries. We're looking at, for example, three major sectors that are going to be highly affected. Number one, the reduction of revenue because of the lower oil price. And we are talking about now $15, $20. Imagine in Malaysia, for example, when we design our budget, we are looking at $60 per barrel. So now if it's even trading at $30 per barrel, so we are looking at half of our revenue drop from oil. And so that is a significant, and eventually that will be having a spillover effect in the sense that government budget decrease, and then eventually a lot of spillover effect, and then the deficit goes up, and if the rating might come down, and because the rating might come down, our cost of borrowing might go up, so on and so forth. So the ecosystem is so fragile. So one sector are having significant impact on the other sectors as well. And also the collapse of aviation industry, not just Malaysian Airlines is having difficulty. Malaysian Airlines always have difficulty, but even a cash-rich company like AirAsia, for example, is also having difficulty. So they might not even sure whether they can sustain their operation until the year end, unless they are taking some drastic measures and also getting the bailout from the government as well. And don't forget, in Malaysia, a company like AirAsia is contributing significant amount to our GDP, not in terms of just revenue and the services that being provided, but also in terms of employment to Malaysians and to Malaysian citizens as well. And if this kind of industry collapse, then you're going to have huge amount of spillover effect. And don't forget, in Malaysia, majority of the people have huge amount of borrowing. So when people lose their jobs, and of course now we have the 6-month moratorium where people can defer their monthly installments, but once that thing is being lifted, people who have out of job will not have ability to finance their loans anymore. So either they got to sell their property, and that might lead to collapse in property prices, or they might have to sell their cars and everything. So a lot of spillover effect will happen when we are not able to sustain this crisis as soon as possible. And the other thing that may be related to Malaysia too, and also Indonesia, and of course globally as well, because our GDP, about 100 billion ringgit come from tourism. And that industry is almost at standstill now. And as for today, as we speak now, right now, almost 4 hotels in Malaysia already closed down. And we are talking about year end, until year end, or maybe this might go even to next year as well. So we are not really sure how we're going to revive this tourism industry until and unless we were able to figure out some kind of solutions to this pandemic from health perspective. Okay, can we move on? Next one. All right. So we look at what the crises are doing from macro perspective, and how does these things gonna impact so-called Islamic finance. For example, if you look at banking, especially Islamic banking, let me just speak about Middle East and Malaysia. I might not have a good understanding of Indonesian market as well. For example, in Malaysian market, a lot of loans are actually consumer loans, and also fixed rate financing as well. And you know that, you know, when you talk about Islamic financing, and even you talk about fixed rate financing, and from banking perspective, you are much more exposed to the volatility in the market. And so of course people might say fixed rate financing mean now the interest rate is lower, you might make more money, so on and so forth. Yeah, that's true from one perspective, but from the other perspective is that from duration perspective or risk management perspective, you know, you're going to be highly exposed. And in the context of Middle East, when liquidity dry up because of the low oil price, so that might, you know, question some of the position of large Islamic banks in Middle East. So my worry is that Islamic banking has been growing over the years because of the liquidity that provided by the petrodollar. So now the question is that when we squeeze the petrodollar, when we are not have enough liquidity in the market anymore due to the limitation or the revenue that we're getting from the petrodollar, so how exactly that we want to sustain the growth of Islamic banking? So this is perhaps more in the context of Middle East. And in Malaysia, I would probably say Islamic bankings are pretty much okay, but again, we are still depending so much from a consumer loan and also SMEs as well. And as you probably know, SMEs are probably the one is worst hit because of this crisis. And apparently, quite a number of SMEs might not even open up after the complete lifting of this lockdown. And also capital market. Because of the reduction in private investments, Sukuk issuance have almost reduced tremendously. Even though there might be new issuance by large corporate entity because they want to take advantage from a very low interest rate and so on and so forth. But again, these crises are jeopardizing the whole ecosystem of finance, or I would probably say that the liquidity in the market. Let me just give you an example, right? For example, in Malaysia, our employment provident fund or our pension fund now have to release about 40 to 50 billion because people now can withdraw their savings because of this crisis. So a withdrawal from the pension fund, which means that the pension fund will have less money to buy the papers which are issued by corporate sectors, so on and so forth. So less saving means less demand for the papers, and less demand for the papers means that reduction in investments, so on and so forth, by the private sector. So again, what the point that I'm trying to make again and again here is that the crisis have actually highlight how fragile the debt-based system is, how fragile our economy is. It took years to build this economy. Company were doing so well, and everything was going so well. And the moment you stop it for 1 month, and suddenly everything seems to be collapsing. So sometimes people doesn't understand. You make so much money over the years, and you cannot even sustain yourself for 1 month. But that's the reality. And how it happens, we are not sure. So the point that I'm trying to make again is that the crisis have exposed the weakness of the system. It has exposed how fragile the financial system is, and eventually the fragility of the financial system is actually translating to the fragility of the society. And obviously the one who is worst affected will be the poor people. So we are not really talking about B40 now. We are really worried that the B40 will get even worse. And like what Dr. Irfan and Dr. Imam have said, the poverty level might go up again, and we worry that whatever good policy that we put in place for over the years, we have to it's been reversed, and we have to restart the whole thing again. So can we move on? Okay, so this is actually my last slide. So which of course these are just example, but let me just make a point. So from my perspective, what exactly I see from my reading and also from my observations on and so forth, government now has to play a very big role in terms of maintaining the system. And obviously some countries have a lot more benefit, like America or Europe, for example, or Japan, and because their currency is quite strong, so they can actually even opt for quantitative easing. But country like Malaysia or Indonesia, when we start opting for quantitative easing, that eventually is going to put a lot of pressure on our currencies, and they're going to have a lot more long-term consequences to our economy as well. So now we have 3 or 4 challenges in front of us. The first challenges is that we need to beef up our public health system. The second challenges is that now we have to basically ensure our economy remain resilient. The third challenges is that we need to really take care of the poor people because they are the more fragile, and because if you don't take care of them, it will be translated into social unrest. Then once we have social unrest, then it will translate into political crisis, and then eventually whatever system that you put in place will not function anymore. All right, so in order for us to prevent this from happening, so what is the beauty about social finance right now is that the way I see it is that, number one, social finance is probably one of the earlier one to have embraced digitalizations. And the blockchain technology in Wakaf and so on and so forth. And Indonesia is also quite advanced when it comes to Islamic fintech as well. So one thing that social finance is showing us right now is that even there is a problems in the main economic parts, if you have a functioning social finance in a way that you can ensure that a large segment of the society are actually taken care of. And digitalizations are building some kind of trust concept, and if you can enhance further this trust concept among the community and among the people as well, and I think this social finance can play not just a supporting role, but eventually can actually play a complementing role. So I would probably see this crisis as an opportunity for social finance to become even more important, because it's imperative right now is that that we need a mechanism to serve the underprivileged and so-called the people who are actually quite fragile and suffering from this crisis. And obviously Indonesia is I would say a good example, and because when I listen to these 2 presentations, I can probably see that a well-structured ecosystem, but now the question is that how we adapt this ecosystem and trying to basically present it into at the global stage, and support a lot more countries like, for example, Pakistan and Bangladesh and so on and so forth. Because what we are seeing there is just the beginning. And whatever I have explained just now, for example, the translation from economic crisis to social risk and to political crisis might happen in those countries. And if that happens, and it's very difficult for us to solve our main problem, which is the pandemic itself. So I'm very supportive of social finance right now, and not just because it's helping the poor, but I'm trying to look at social finance at much higher level, at much macro level, because eventually it's going to become a policy framework to reduce the fragility of our current economic system. So with that, I think I would probably stop here in case there's any questions or any queries, and probably I can answer. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you, Professor Muhammad Iskandar. So all prominent speaker has already spoken. You can see that from Basna's view, they have three policies: how to determination cluster recipient, how to make a special emergency program, and how to securing existing program in Indonesia. And from Wakaf view, Mr. Imam said that Wakaf has at least two model in alleviating the COVID-19, direct model or indirect model. Direct model with launching some kind of Wakaf initiative with other institutions, like with Bandung Institute of Technology issuing financial letter, and indirect model using other institutions, and also the initiative like Cash Wakaf Link Sukuk, the integration of commercial and social finance, the first of its kind in the world. And the last speaker from Malaysia is from the Malaysia's view, how the impact of the COVID to the global economy and to the Malaysia economy, how the Malaysia economy is suffered because the oil price is going down. Malaysia is one of the export oil countries. Also, Malaysia is depend more on the tourism, and the tourism is hit hard by the COVID. So, but there's an opportunity for the third sector, if Professor Muhammad Iskandar said, for the Islamic social finance to make the role of the Islamic finance to alleviate the economic pandemic by COVID impact. So this is time for the question and answer. We have a participant not only from Indonesia, we have participant also from Bangladesh, from Malaysia, and from Brunei. The participant can ask the question in the chat, so we can talk about the question. There's first, there's two question. The first question is from Warna Katsili to Dr. Irfan Salkibek. Increase the income even in the COVID-19 from double the income because shifting the production. So is there any data in Basnas? How many percentage the mustahik became muzaki? That's a two question to Dr. Irfan Salkibek, Basnas. And the second question is from Mr. Bimansara. I think it's to Dr. Irfan Salkibek in Basnas and Dr. Imam Tukuh, National Wakaf Agency. The question is how you spot the ones who deserve economic social support. Because we already know that in reality, in practice, there's some inaccurate data whose people proper to receive the social support. This is the first session for the question and answer. Two questions to Dr. Irfan Salkibek and Dr. Imam Teguh. Please respond, Dr. Irfan and Dr. Imam Teguh.
Okay, I will try to respond to the questions, although for the first one, your voice was not clear, but what I tried to understand from the question is related with the database. Am I right? The first one. Hello?
Of Mustahik, yeah. The
Yeah.
first one is how the Basnas handle database Mustahik in a whole national Indonesia.
Okay. So regarding the database of the Mustahik, first of all, we have the access to the data that is available from the Ministry of Social Affairs, from the Directorate General of Management of Fakir and Miskin, yeah, PFM. So we got around 104 million database, 104 million, which is the bottom 40% of the total population. So we have that data. The second one, we also have our own existing data, yeah, more than 3 million data that is available in our own database, yeah, in Basnas. So this is for the existing data. And of course, these data are not covering the new poor people, yeah, because as some studies, or even we have made some estimation that the number of poor, the rate of poverty will increase because of this COVID-19 pandemic. And this increase in the poverty data is still not accommodated in the existing database. That's why, in addition to these two data that we have, the first one from the Ministry of Social Affairs and the second one is from our own database, we also open the possibility to include, yeah, those who are affected by this COVID-19 pandemic and eligible to be classified as the recipients of zakat or as mustahik. So when those who are eligible to receive zakat are not included in these two databases, so we can still accept that as part of our recipients. So this is what we are doing here. And then regarding the regular update of the data, of course, we always update the data every month, yeah, because, and in our directorate, we have also several program agencies. We have 11 program agencies within our directorate. For example, ZCD, Zakat Based Community Development, and also we have Basnas Institute of Mustahik Breeder Empowerment, yeah, etc. So we have 11 institutions, and they are given the mandate, yeah, to identify the mustahik, the new mustahik, and based on their identification, so the database of all mustahik is updated. Yeah, so this is what we are doing. And of course, we have several indicators, and also we have our own standard that must be fulfilled in order to be included or to be eligible as our mustahik. Yeah, so this is what we do. And also as exchange of data, yeah, as respond to the agreement between Basnas and also Ministry of Social Affairs, yeah. So those who are given zakat, yeah, and these people are included in this database of the ministry, so we have to inform them as well. So this is what we are doing. We give them the information on the mustahik, yeah, the recipients, how much they are receiving zakat, and then this is included in the data that we send to the Ministry of Social Affairs. So This is what we are doing. And regarding the number of the mustahik that have been able to be released, yeah, from poverty and even succeeded to be muzaki, yeah. So you can see the research and publication that have been published by the Basna Center of Strategic Studies on their website, yeah, because the Basna Center of Strategic Studies, or Puskas Basnas, has regularly published the impact of zakat towards the mustahik. Yeah, and if we look at the 2019 data, yeah, around 35% of our mustahik are able to be released from the poverty and they become the muzaki. Yeah, 35%. Of course, the ideal rate should be 100%, but this is what we are, what we can best do, yeah, in this regard. I think that's about the data. And regarding the support, yeah, for those who deserve the economic support, yeah, as long as they are able to be listed in our 6 clusters of the recipients, yeah, I think they are eligible to receive our support. But one thing that we need to remember, that I have to tell you, that the number or the amount of zakat is still limited. Yeah, we are not able to cover all of the poor in the country. Yeah, at the moment, for example, for the special emergency programs, yeah, like health, emergency health program, and also emergency economic, social and economic programs. At the moment, after almost 1 month, yeah, of this COVID-19 pandemic, Central Basnas, Central Basnas, the one that I manage directly, we are able to serve around 91,000 poor family, yeah, 91,000, and we are expecting to add until 150,000 poor families, yeah, in this holy month of Ramadan. Of course, we are also expecting the Basnas at provincial level, as well as the Basnas at city and regency level, and also the private zakat institutions, or LAS, to play a bigger role, yeah, in order to provide the services needed by the people affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, so, and also we simplify the procedure, yeah, for those affected. We simplify the procedure, we simplify the requirement, and also we simplify the method of verification. So in order to increase the level of service, so we can provide the service excellence for the mustahik and for those who are affected by this COVID-19 pandemic. I think that's my answer. Thank you very much.
Dr. Imam Teguh, please.
Okay. Related with data, yes, data is indeed the biggest obstacle, especially related to wakaf. Because generally, wakaf asset in Indonesia are managed by the individual traditional Nazir, which is the Nazir that has been registered in Badan Wakaf Indonesia is only less than 300. While in the field, there is more than 15,000 Nazir that has been recognized, but it is not registered yet. At the moment, only wakaf asset that has already relatively available the data in complete. And at the present, the wakaf data assets have been certified. If it is certified, it is stored by BPN or the Ministry of Land Certification. But for the uncertified land of asset, it is registered in Kantor Urusan Agama. And then, well, on the other, wakaf asset is still relatively minimal. Currently, Badan Wakaf Indonesia, helped by Central Bank, by Bank Indonesia, are constructing wakaf reporting system, especially for cash wakaf. So that's the situation, yes, about the cash wakaf, it is still limited data available, but the land is a more strong database. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Imam. We move to another question. Yes, we have a question from participant from Brunei, Mr. Hamzi. He would like to know the view of the three prominent speakers talking about another Islamic instrument, which is micro takaful, where he believes that has a potential in helping out not just the people but the economic as well. Where zakat and wakaf fund to be put in Tabaru fund, and this may achieve the objective of Sharia, not just protecting the underprivileged families as well as public in general. That's the first question. The view of the three prominent speakers, the role of micro takaful. And the second question from Mr. Hamzi in Brunei is, Dr. Irfan Saukibek has the presentation talking about the package that is provided by Basnas. There is health cluster that you have mentioned. He would like to seek clarification from you, Dr. Irfan. Which funds of 8 group of zakat recipients eligible was used? That's the second question. Second question from Mr. Hamzi of Brunei. And another question is from Mr. Rafili Muhammad Hilman from Ministry for Coordinating Economic Affairs, Republic of Indonesia. Question is to Professor Muhammad Iskandar from Malaysia. How do zakat wakaf collection in Malaysia being distributed to the people who need from the impact of COVID-19? And second question is to Professor Muhammad Iskandar. How much percentage from actual collection compared to potential collection of zakat wakaf in Malaysia in order to encounter this COVID-19 pandemic? And the third question is from Bank Indonesia. I think the employee from Bank Indonesia, Ms. Yuri. I think the question is to Dr. Irfan from Basnas. If it is possible to add variable time in the equation on the Basnas program. Having the time information, we can expect the program will give more impact. For example, in 2 weeks, beginnings of pandemics, Basnas target X number personal protective equipment, distribute to X number of hospital in Y number of province. I think the three question is waiting the response from the three prominent speaker. Please, the time is yours.
Who's the first?
The first, I think Professor Muhammad Iskandar, we can give to the Malaysian, yeah, because the Indonesian has already spoken. Please, Professor Muhammad Iskandar, the time is yours to respond.
Thank you so much. I see there are a couple of questions which is addressed to me. The first one, yeah, about the role of micro takaful. Obviously, we are not really discounting the role of takaful to support the people. But bear in mind, this crisis is unique. A lot of companies or takaful companies don't really cover when it comes to pandemic coverage. But you can probably look at the role of micro takaful differently, you know, especially in terms of protecting jobs, protecting mortgage, protecting, for example, loss of income, so on and so forth. So the micro takaful concept might not cover directly from this pandemic. You might not really benefiting from it because generally insurance companies, maybe in the future things might be different, do not really cover you know, any impact from the pandemic. But then the role of micro takaful can actually play a role in terms of covering the loss of income, covering loss of job, covering loss of revenue, so on and so forth. So the crisis, to be honest with you, the crisis also have raised quite a lot of pertinent questions about the role of takaful, whether it is just about health, is it just about life, or is it just about property? Maybe we have to extend that further, about our mortgage protections, our job protections, so on and so forth. Especially in the country like Malaysia, for example, or even Indonesia, or many Muslim countries where we don't have unemployment insurance benefit. So this is the role of micro takaful going to play a role. So whenever crises like this happen, at least takaful fund can come in and actually ease the pain in terms of giving us so-called a basic income that can sustain us for at least 1 or 2 months before the economy can recover and before we can actually go back to our job. Because if you notice, and I can speak from Malaysian perspective, 70% of workers in Malaysia who are depending on daily income are really suffering right now. Because there's nothing that they can do in terms of going back and open up their businesses. So they have a total loss of income. And their saving probably going to last them for at least a month. And we are quite lucky because Malaysia announced a stimulus package and support probably about 1,600 ringgit for 2 months. But that's definitely not enough. So having a mechanism like micro takaful that can cover like this kind of crisis in terms of loss of income, so on and so forth, will eventually be quite useful. So that is basically my view about micro takaful in the context of this pandemic. The second question, which is regarding zakat collections. Malaysia's zakat collection is also quite efficient because it's governed at the state level. Obviously, some states are more efficient than the others. I can give you one example. In one of the states in Malaysia, Kedah, they're using quite a lot of fintech technology in terms of giving them a live update in terms of total collection and also total distribution. And they can, so this technology of contact tracing, for example, is already there before, even in the context of zakat, because they can actually trace zakat recipients. And now they're going even beyond that. They are also looking at the impact of zakat recipient as well. And I'm sure the same thing are happening in Indonesia as well. So when I talk about impact, for example, talking about their income and talking about so on and so forth. So this contact tracing is already happening in the past. So this is not something new. So we're just using it in the context of this pandemic crisis. So total collection in Malaysia, if you look at on annual basis, now zakat collection in Malaysia is almost 1 billion ringgit. So it's quite efficient because not only individuals are paying zakat, but also a lot of companies are also opting to pay zakat as well. And in Malaysia, if you don't want to pay your income tax, you can also pay your zakat. So the total collection is increasing over the years. And out of that, almost 1 billion ringgit more of zakat collection. I think for this pandemic itself, I don't have the figures with me, but I've read it somewhere that more than 100 million ringgit has been distributed for this crisis. Of course, some richer states like Selangor and like Sarawak and like Johor and everything are distributing more, and some lower state are distributing less. But in a nutshell, just like Indonesia, zakat institution in Malaysia are playing a very big role in terms of supporting the B40 community. Our wakaf system is slightly different. Not saying that different means that our wakaf is not meant so much of in terms of alleviating poverty. Our wakaf system is more of managing the mosque and managing properties, so on and so forth. So I will probably say that it's still relatively very small as compared to what Indonesia has, like dompet duafa, so on and so forth. Yes, we are moving towards wakaf hospitals, so on and so forth. But it's not as advanced as compared to Indonesia. Wakaf is more in terms of property management, in terms of mosque management, in terms of graveyard management. But of course, we have this cash wakaf management who's managed by the banks. Some of the Islamic banks are collecting money like Bank Islam and Bank Muamalats and everything, and using this cash wakaf to support the poor. And you can see that some of the program by Bank Islam to using wakaf fund and sedekah fund to support the poor. All in all, I would probably say that because we have a good social finance, same thing like Indonesia as well, we can sustain the society for 2 months. And you can see there are not so much of issue of putting the food on the table for Malaysians. And this is not just because we have a better, for example, distribution at the government level, but more importantly, we have a good distribution among the NGOs and among the zakat, so on and so forth. So what I'm trying to make, like what the point that I made just now as well, if you can scale it up even more, and systematically become a part of the ecosystem, and using digital technology, I think anytime that there's a shock into the system, automatically the social finance will just come out and actually balance out any imbalance in the society. So we no longer want to see social finance is playing a supporting role, but at this point of time, we want to see that social finance is playing a so-called a complementing role to the government. And because of digital, and because of transparency, and because of social media, and because of all the technology that provided by fintech, I think this is doable, and this is going to be a lot more easier in the future. So that is exactly the answer for the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Muhammad Iskandar. Dr. Irfan Shauki and Dr. Imam, please. The response is yours.
Yeah, regarding the questions on the role of micro takaful, at the moment, for the takaful role, for the micro one is not that significant at the moment, at least from our perspective, but takaful in general, or Islamic insurance in general, yes, it still has a role that can be played. For example, in terms of the covering, the insurance for our volunteers, yeah. From the National Disaster Management Agency, or BNPB, they have requested Basnas to provide the insurance for the volunteers of these joint humanitarian efforts. Yeah, so we cover around almost 6,000, 6,000 volunteers. Yeah, that is covered by the insurance. Although, as Prof. Iskandar said, that none of the takaful providers, or even the insurance, including the conventional one, they have specific scheme to cover the victim, or to cover the humanitarian volunteers during the pandemic era. Yeah, none of the insurance company. So what we are doing, we use the work accident insurance, yeah, Islamic insurance, and also life insurance, yeah, to cover these volunteers, because they are, you can say, the frontliner, yeah, during this pandemic. They risk their life, they risk their everything, because but they have, good intention to help others. So we provide this one, yeah. And regarding the health cluster, yeah, the health programs, the emergency health programs, which ASNAF, yeah, that is eligible. Actually, Basnas is managing four kinds of fund. The first one is zakat, the second is infak, the third one is sadaqah. Infak and sadaqah can be used interchangeably. And the last one is what we call as DSKL, or Dana Sosial Keagamaan Lainnya, or other Islamic social fund. Yeah, but it excludes Wakaf fund, because Wakaf is under the authority of Badan Wakaf Indonesia. So we are not collecting cash Wakaf. So including in this other fund is CSR, yeah? CSR fund received from various parties, various companies. So for the equipment, yeah, protective equipment, personal protective equipment for the medical doctors, normally it is taken from the source of infak fund or sadaqah fund, and also CSR fund. Yeah, so we have flexibility in the determination of the asnaf. But if we use zakat, then it may come under miskin, yeah, like for the funeral officers, yeah, they are obviously poor people, yeah, because they are paid less than the nisab, yeah, the nisab standard. They are paid less than nisab standard, although they are paid according to the minimum wage, yeah, but minimum wage is smaller than the nisab, so they are eligible as asnaf miskin, yeah. And also we can utilize for the asnaf fisabilillah, yeah, fisabilillah, for the cause of Allah, yeah. And the rest is since we use infak and sodako and other funds, so there's flexibility in putting them, yeah, as the receipt. But in our discussions, yeah, fisabilillah even can be used, yeah, because the medical doctors, they require. So it's a kind of war equipment, yeah, war, but the soldier is the doctor. So the frontliner, yeah, the infantry battalion is the doctor. So it's a kind of war. So we can use also under the asnaf of fisabilillah. And the last one regarding the data, you can refer directly to our website basnas.go.id/pendistribusian. It is still in Indonesian language. Yeah, there in the website, we regularly publish our situation report. So in this situation report, everything is reported, including the number of the recipients, the number of personal protective equipment that has been distributed, and also the location around Indonesia, yeah, which province, which program, yeah, everything is reported there. And until now, for the latest issue, until now, we have the 23rd situation report, yeah, because we regularly update the report in a week, maybe two or three times a week. Yeah, you can see the regular publication there, so you can update the data. Yeah, but when it comes to the issue of using this data for research, yeah, it will be depending upon the methodology that is used, yeah, in that research. But at least for the data, you can go directly to our website, yeah, and also you can see, also we have a specific subdomain of the website, which is related with this COVID-19 pandemic, which is covid19.basnas.go.id. You can also see all the activities, yeah, of Basnas in that website. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Irfan. Dr. Imam, the time is yours.
Yes, I think I want to make a short that related with the takaful. I think it is time for us to combine the Islamic social finance, combining with the commercial funds as a one solution package. For example, we could use the endowment fund or cash wakaf as utilized as a financing sources for the micro enterprise, assuming that the micro enterprises include the asnaf. So in parallel, we utilize APKA fund for the financing. In parallel, we use the zakat to support the living costs of the micro enterprise. And part of the zakat could be, despite the fikih consideration, we could use the part of zakat to, let's say, the buying a premium for the insurance or takaful. So if something happen with the microfinance, we protect the family from falling as a gorimin. Maybe it is still to discuss. But again, the spirit is, why don't we combine the instruments of the social funds and commercial funds, Islamic social and commercial funds, into one package of the solution? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Imam, Dr. Irfan, and Professor Muhammad Iskandar. That time is closing to the buka in Bahasa Indonesia, to the fast. But I think still one question I think left for Professor Iskandar, because you have mentioned that there is a reduction in financing in Malaysia's Islamic bank growth to fall below 5%. What step Malaysian government do to overcome it? Please, Professor Muhammad Iskandar, respond to the question. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think it's a very good question. So obviously, we're probably looking at the shift in terms of financing. Over the years, we've been depending so much on the consumer financing. quite sizable of money actually goes to the consumer in terms of car loan, personal loan, and more importantly, the mortgage. But because of the collapse in terms of confidence, and a lot of people are actually reluctant to borrow because they are not really sure whether they're going to have their jobs or not. So I'm advising one of the bank in Malaysia. So it's just from personal experience. I'm not really sure what entire banking sectors are doing. Probably they are crafting their own package and plan for them to overcome reductions in terms of the financing. But the bank that I'm advising is we are coming out, or the banks are actually looking at how they can support the SMEs more right now. So now the new player in town is basically supporting SMEs. And this is very important because SMEs in Malaysia, for example, are contributing almost 38% of the GDP and employing almost 6 million people of the labor employed in SME industry. So now the biggest task or the biggest ask at this point of time is that how we can actually support the SMEs. Of course, the government has actually come out with almost 30 billion fund to be allocated to all these SMEs, but I believe that 30 billion is not enough because if you look at just a proportion, if you take 40% of our GDP, and our GDP is about 1.5 trillion ringgit, so SME is contributing more than about 600 million billion of economic contributions. So to support SMEs now becoming a very important pillars. I think Islamic banks are doing that. And obviously Islamic banks also subscribe to VBI, value-based intermediaries, and this is very much in line with the pillars of Islamic banking in terms of helping so-called these fragile SMEs so that they can overcome the crisis, and not just overcome, but the SME, the bank that I'm supporting or advising, we are actually looking at also building the capacity of the SMEs, and more importantly, not just giving them a financing solution, but also accelerate the process of embracing technology. I think the solution will be in the future is how fast that SMEs can embrace the technology, and the sooner, the better. And for that, you can actually use whatever framework that we have right now, digital banking or digital zakat whatsoever, in terms of supporting that to happen. So just to give you an overview about what Islamic banks in Malaysia are actually doing. But definitely the revenue or the financing from the consumer loan will reduce tremendously this year because very few people are going to buy property for the next 6 months, even next year, until the confidence is back, until people realize that actually their job is actually safe. Because this is for the first time there's a massive unemployment happening at the same time. So people have to forget this incident, and people have to move on, and people have to believe that the future going to be better, and only then people will start borrowing again. Until that happen, I think the focus will be supporting the business community. That's all from me.
Okay, thank you, Professor Nur Iskandar. There is some question running. I think some question talking about Basnas and BWI, talking about the institutional, how these two agencies, if more effective, become like a minister. It is the question is, I think, is better and appropriate to the government, not to the Basnas or BWI. And also the question about talking about cash coupling suku. It is still the private placement. The first issue is on March 2020, and it's still not open for the public, for the retail. The second cash coupling suku will be open for retail, but in later. The first issue is not for retail, is for private placement. Because the time is coming due to the buka for the big fest. I think the session of question and answer is end here. Thank you very much for the prominent speaker has already responded in good good clear explanation, and for the participation from Indonesia, from Bangladesh, from Malaysia, and from Brunei. Thank you for participating in this event. And I will give this to the Master of Ceremony to the end of the session. Thank you very much. Please.
Thank you, Mr. Irfan. Thank you to all the speakers and the participants. This is the closing of this webinar. Thank you for joining us today. May Allah always protect us. Don't forget to stay at home. Thank you and wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Selamat berbuka Ramadan Karim.
Ramadan